Welcome everyone, this is Gamer1745 here for Slytherin TV, and we're going to be playing Panzer Corps 2 Axis Operations 1943, the very recently released DLC. There will be coming soon, but they didn't want to step on this one, and I think they're still working on it. Just want to announce a Panzer Corps 2 Pacific campaign. And it's sort of a different sub-team within the, I forget the design studio. And hello, Hannibal Bonaparte. So look forward to that coming out too, and of course there will be more. And that's I'm not sure whether the Pacific is a different DLC or a standalone game. I'm not sure. But Panzer Corps 2. This part is going to very much be a, as far as I understand, an Axis played focus. But now with the Pacific, I don't know how or what someday doing Allied side of campaigns as well. I hope they do. I love the engine. I would love to see more of that happen. Just sort of giving everybody sort of what I know, and I don't know all of it by any means, but what I know of the roadmap for this. So now we have a lot from this is sort of the original Belmont campaign that came with the game, I believe all that is, and then here we have the Axis operations. I've stopped several times, but I'm really sort of getting inspired. I don't know if like on my channel, I know it won't be enough to do it here on Slytherin, but maybe trying to do a whole playthrough starting in Spain and going all the way through now that there's a lot of these, because I've played I think all of these, at least like the first third or so, but then get distracted by other shiny objects and play them often Slytherin objects or Matrix, whatever. And hello SGBU, how you doing? So just to give you sort of heads up, but starting this, okay, the battle for Stalingrad is over, but the German forces that have survived the debacle, the struggle continues, regrouping at the elbow of the Dnieper. There's something going on around the Dnieper, that area right now too. I forget what it was, but today, over 500 kilometers from Stalingrad, Axis forces must now deal with the gigantic gap that the Soviet Union attacks have created in the lines. But first, German High Command is arriving at the front to review the direction of the ongoing war in the East. And we're playing it as general level of difficulty. Have a bunch of heroes. I'm going to cover all the details here. And just, I know I've done this, no overstrength. I really don't need overstrength, so I think I went that and Marine expert here. Okay, this report. We'll have to wait a moment. My General, Field Marshal von Manstein, has arrived. General Hans, it is good to see that you are still alive in these trying times. I admit I feared the worst. We have been retreating hundreds of kilometers from Stalingrad, however far that is, all the way back to the elbow of the Dnieper River. Begging your pardon, Herr Field Marshal, but I do not believe trying times is strong enough of a description for our predicament. Field Bond lets out a sigh. If you knew how right you are, Oberst, I have been at war on two fronts ever since I received command of Army Group Dawn last year. 2 fronts? Yes, yes, and the second front is closing in on me as we speak. High Command has flown out here to personally inspect the situation. I cannot conceive of him, I cannot convince him of the need for immediate offensive action. I suspect your long retreat has only just begun. I presume him is Hitler, but I'm not sure. Oh, great! You subscribed, SGBU. Great to have you here as a Prime subscriber. Very good. Yeah, I think von Manstein could have done a much better job with the forces he had at hand had he been given a free hand. Not that he would have saved Stalingrad or something, but he probably would have, I do believe, broken them out effectively and early and saved most of those units. And Beam Slam is here. Very good. Okay, we'll continue this. High Command is coming here in person. My apologies. I had no idea things were that grim. Primarily objective. I protect High Command grounded transport here. Primary objective. That's very important. It is most precious position, having to fight this battle so close to the real front lines. I have read your reports. It is true that General Hans's command is at 30% of strength. Yes, Herr Field Marshal, our retreat has exhausted our forces and left us scraping the bottom of the proverbial barrel for supplies. Then I pray a mere 50 kilometers between us and the Soviet front lines will be enough of a buffer. In case it is not, I am counting on you and General Hans to provide security for my meeting. I trust that this is not asking too much. I've already taken liberty of sending out small screening forces to patrol the perimeter. We should be hearing from them any moment. I shall take my leave of you then. My safety and the safety of High Command is in your hands here, General. Oberst Stefan Weiger is silent as he awaits Field Marshal von Manstein to walk out of hearing distance. My General, we have a serious problem. That report I was about to give you before Field Marshal arrives was our screening forces have spotted a formation of Soviet tanks approaching. It is very small force, so I felt that there was no need to burden the Field Marshal with this information, but he had made it clear we are in charge of security at this highest level meeting. Bonus objective, destroy the entire first wave of Soviet tanks. Narrative objectives, ignore the exhausted forces in the southeast. Don't know how well that's going to work out for what's going on here. While the vast majority of our ground forces are unavailable, as is the entirety of our aircraft. We do have a handful of units free to respond. So units down here are free to respond. I recommend we pull our screening forces back to the swampy areas. It would be prime location for our infantry to ambush the enemy tanks. As a final reminder, we should not spend any time or effort on freeing up the majority of our army. Even if we could free them for combat, there is no fuel or ammunition available for them to assist us. Victory for Germany. Okay. Exit debriefing. Okay, limited deployment. Okay, we right now have 137 points deployed and we can only have 50. A bunch of the points are here. Some of the other points are in aircraft. So what I'm going to do, and what we can see up here, this is one of our core units here. You can see some of the other ones are not. They have a bunch of these units that they've got no transport. This does have transport, but a bunch of these units don't have transports. We've got this out here, these French tanks, Sharpies. Yeah, not really good. They're going to be surrounded. I have, like I said, I played the first 3 turns out several times, and there's Soviet forces in this area, and it ain't going to go well. So, it ain't going to go well at all. Turn 0, same difficulty. This is just after I'm going to make one change, I think, from what I have here. Okay, now I've sent a bunch of forces into reserve. We can resume game here. We can see our reserve forces, a bunch of air units and others. are all sent in reserves to get down to. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong thing. Get down, but what I think I'm going to do here is I have 2 free points still. No, oh, no. Wrong thing. What I meant to do was here. Got a lot of points. Is there any reason to use this prototype potential ready to overheat Tiger Peas? The oust E. 23. That's going down. Okay, we're going to use the Tiger 1. Oh, it's 3. Okay. Oh, we're at. This is a 2. Is this really a 2? Oh, it's a 2. Okay. Ooh, so we can go to a 4. Go to the oust E then. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to upgrade that. That's the one thing I wanted to upgrade there. Okay. So my basic philosophy is save what you can save. The rest you do what you can with. So I've removed partially just to reduce the amount of points, those Sharbies. I have put a Tiger out here because it was just one of the few deployments. I've used every deployment hex that I can down here. And I'll let you know that there's a bunch of Soviet forces up here that are going to come slamming right down into this. And we see one of the tanks here. They're not all very strong, but there's a bunch of forces that we have to get up here very fast, or as fast as we can. So that is our sort of deployment situations. So I don't know what they're going to throw at me later, but I sort of know the early stages. So in deployment. Okay, well up here. They can get to here, so let's get them down to here. These guys, they can come to here. We don't want to get too close to that because we're going to be in trucks. P-34. We're going to pull you back here. Oh, further into the swamp. You're going to go and fight a delaying action there because you just can't walk. Even if I force march you, can't go far enough. You can get to here, so you're going to get to here. They might survive. That's just a might. And yeah, I think I'm going to risk having him here. These guys are not going to survive, but they might hold out a little better in the town. So here we're going to move you to yes. Okay, so these are the forces. They're going to, if we don't take these forces out, they're going to either march up here and take out these grounded units, air units, or they're going to mess with my artillery here. So we have to do what we can. So we're going to move this guy here, get rapid deployment, as well as hero. No cost. So we're going to hit that as hard as we can. That's actually sort of good because we can now move you here. Hello, Sushi Smells. How you doing? I don't know that this is the first battle in Axis Operation 1943, and I guess it's the Battle of Zaporizhzhia. It's right at the elbow of the Dnieper River. This is post Stalingrad, if that helps. Think here if there's anybody. Yeah. Oh, good. An overrun. We can circle up here, so even if we don't fully take these guys out, this turn it will be very hard for them to move into our rear here. Okay, these guys will come into here. They'll be backed up by these anti-tank guns. These guys will move that way. I don't know if these guys are free to move or not, but protect those guns. Okay, I think that's going to lock them into battle there. None of these are reinforceable, they're just weak. We've got to get up to protect that as fast as possible, and these are all locked in, at least over here they are. Just hope this tiger doesn't get cut off. That's my only real fear. I'm not fearing for it to be destroyed this turn. If it gets cut off, it could be destroyed in detail, possibly. Yeah, that's not entirely unexpected. See the white tanks, they're camouflaged. That's sort of the point, I know. Right. Okay, well here, let's move up. Hopefully kill this tank unit. Yeah, okay, great. Retake the town. Okay, we've even saved this armored car, I believe. That's a bit weaker, we'll go with that. We lost those two infantry groups. I think we'll stand. I know we need to get armor in here as fast as possible, but I think we'll do okay. We'll stand here and hopefully we'll ambush whoever's coming against us. Okay, they can move and then shoot. So do so. Okay, well, they retreated to there, which means I got them, can't attack. I wanted to attack first with this, but then move, but we can just move. This we can. No, has no, but we don't need. Expensive. Raid. There's probably somebody there. There could, I'm not sure. There isn't, but we're still getting our guys somewhat. I think we'll just need to dating these guys and an overrun, which means we can continue to push this direction. Like complicated games with Panzer Corps is just a game I'm returning to when having war game itch. It's done well, not easy to win, but great fun. Yeah, no, I look. I know some of you guys watching here know me like Beam Slam. I love things like War in the East too. It's yes, it's turn-based. It's not real time, but it is a very realistic, very detailed war game. I love those. I don't play that so much just because of time. A little more playing things like Strategic Command and War Plan, but I love those type of games. They're great to dig into the details to play, but these are also great. This and Order of Battle are also faves. They're more simplistic, yes, but they're fun games. So you just get in, you play them, you have fun, but they're still a challenge to try to figure out how to like do a retreat in the face of the enemy here that we are facing and hold off them. So it's not the most realistic. And I try to judge every game for what it's trying to be. If this was trying to be a hyper realistic game, well, you've got lots of what are these? Is this the 13th where infantry? Is a company, a battalion, a platoon, a division? The scale of this game constantly is changing from battle to battle and whatnot. So you just sort of got to go with the flow. And I think for what it's trying to do, it's doing it well. Yeah, I think just staying on the defensive, best bet. Got that upgraded what we can. They're coming here. Okay. Yes, ambush, great. Ooh, that hurt them. And minorly hurt us. Ah, some Lees. Ouch, that is the critical building we must defend. We got double attacks. Okay, Hans's turn. Unless you're going to keep him down here, you want to move the furthest one back you can. First up. Right, okay. That's sort of coming in on the flank. Alright. We'll move you up to here, hopefully hit that. Good. Overrun. Yeah, we'll retake the trenches. That's a decent holding pattern there. Okay, we have this tiger. They're in the trenches. That's sort of what they're not doing the best. Okay, we're going to come here, hopefully take this out. Overrun. We're going to go take these heights. Hold on the heights. Risk these armored cars. They've got a short-barreled 75, but with a hollow charge round. Should do okay-ish, and they'll be in the... These Panzer IIs. Wasn't allowed to upgrade them or anything. Okay. These guys were going to move right into these entrenchments to get back up from the anti-tank gun or when the enemies come. Okay, we can come here and then deploy. They've evacuated all the way to there. And okay, these guys are going to come to here. These guys are going to come to here. Oh. Ooh. Undo. I was willing to fire at these guys first, and then come to here. Yes. So they pushed into there. Now here, just in case somebody else is thinking about winging around wide, we'll move that guy up to there. There may be some Soviet tanks coming from down here, so we'll get there. These guys, let's just get them all the way up to there and all the way up to there now. No air, I think, operating. But we're going to risk being on half tracks. I think these guys are still sort of locked up. I think something's coming down these roads and going to get near our artillery. There we go. Okay, so there we go. We've come up, I think, for the immediate time we've secured these bases. It's taken some damage, but not that much. Oberst Wagner, a special reinforcement has arrived to join the fight. Ooh, another ambush. Ooh, they just got munched. KV's got munched. I am informed that these tanks have been reverse engineered from captured Russian T-34s, incorporating their best design features and supercharging them with an overloaded of German engineering. The tanks we have received as reinforcements are just combat prototypes, but looking at their specs, I'm most eager to see the production model in action later this year. Right. It's this thing here. What are these? Well, just click information. They're calling it Panther P. Okay. The hatch you get in and out of for the lower parts is down here on the side. There's another one on the other side, as well as at least the driver's hatch. I think that's a vision thing, but I'm not sure. These tanks never existed. They did, I think, wooden mock-ups, like full-size. I've seen some photos of a wooden mock-up. The problem, as far as I know, and obviously they didn't exist, but is that they took a T-34. I don't, I guess that hatch could theoretically, I mean, it's going to create some sort of a weak spot, but theoretically be as thick as the rest of the side of the armor. But it's, heavily sloped and all that stuff. You could theoretically take a lot of the good points of a T-34 and create this thing. The problem with it is, the big problem with it is, it's Germanified, in that it's complicated to make. One of the reasons the T-34 had such a big impact is there was so many of them. And it wasn't until fairly late in the war, and I forget the time, that you start seeing, don't know if we see any here, T-34 85s, that those are the first ones that have the 3-man turret. Where these are just big, comfortable, well, no, these are the small 2-man turrets. Maybe it's this one here, are the bigger, comfortable 2-man turrets. These are still just 2-man turrets. They had different factories produce different turrets types for the T-34 in its production life. And so, they're not that great a tank, but they produce so damn many of them. That is what made them, and they were good enough. I mean, they weren't great, but they were good enough. The Panzer IV and the Panzer III, too many vertical angles. The armor is getting a bit weak for the 76mm guns. I would say, generally speaking, the L-48 gun on the Panzer IVs are better, and the tank is better than the T-34 in that it's a 3-man turret. They got better radio communication, better vision blocks, better gun sights, better. The weaker bit is the armor, and that it's not well angled. You could have, because if you notice, this thing has different road wheels, more like a T-34's, based on coming off of the Christie. You could have tried to just do some of that to the Panzer IV and leave it at that, but no, they had to try to do more with it. So you don't get, so these are, I would still say, better. I would rather be in a unit of long-barreled L-48 barreled Panzer IVs, preferably a bit up-armored, than be in the same number of T-34 76mm, the early versions, if you're talking same number of tanks. So, but the Germans just made tanks, over-designed the tanks as if they were durable good. Tanks are not durable goods in war. In peacetime, yeah, you build your tanks, you build them up, you can have really good ones, have big tank fleets, but once you go to war, you start attriting them rapidly, potentially. And you need to build tanks with that in mind, and they didn't. Chrome didn't start stream automatically. Interesting, Ragnar. I don't know. That would be up, I guess, to Twitch. Don't know why. And hello, the Librarian 262. Sometimes I get annoyed when tanks does not exist in real life fighting games. Yeah, that's sort of what I'm talking about here. Hello, Forrest Marco. Yeah, good enough, even if barely, was the tank production doctrine. Absolutely, yes. And so it's a combination of capabilities of, Soviets can't. I mean, not that they couldn't build a few handcrafted, good, high quality, whatever it may be, tanks or aircraft, but they really don't have the manufacturing capacity to build high quality anything. The Russians to the point of World War II, where you're talking Imperial Russia or whatnot, just don't have that outside of, again, handcrafted whatever. They can't build high quality. They can, the T-34-85 is a damn good gun. Not as good as a the 88 millimeter guns that the Tiger 1s had, or the bigger 88s of the Tiger 2s or something like that, but it's still a damn good gun. So it's more than good, just good enough. It's good. So there are the ability, it's partially just they're capable of what they can build, but just need to build a lot of them is part of the criteria for what we're facing here in the war of production. I know people like Ragar and Beamslam have heard me talk on a lot of these subjects, and sometimes multiple ones, but I can categorize warfare into two basic forms. One is a war of attrition. Might be found like in a guerrilla warfare or on the Eastern Front. It is just you need to cause more combat casualties at a greater ratio than to the enemies. So yes, if you have a super tank, and you can look at, and it's partially just the way they were used on the defensive, the Stugs have a great kill to loss ratio, and they're not that complicated to make. So one is war of attrition. And sometimes you can make equipment that can survive in it longer than others. The other type of warfare is what I call the warfare of maneuver and decision. That would be, say, like the Battle of France and the whole Fall Gelb and then the later Fall Rot coming into France. Is you have a smaller tank force, the Germans. You have a smaller Air Force. The German Air Force is smaller than the French Air Force, let alone the Belgian Air Force, which was pathetic, but the British Air Force, which was good. So the Allied Air Forces that were, knew that they were going to be in the Dutch also, of course, ended up in the fight too there. But so the Germans have a smaller Air Force, and the British are better organized probably than the Germans, but the Germans are better organized air operations than the French for sure. So at the point of impact, shall we say, at the air battles, the Germans have more aircraft, but the French just have more modern aircraft. We're talking modern aircraft than the Germans do. It's Germany's ability to maneuver their forces and make create decisions on the battlefield, not the ability to knock out, the French tanks. Well, okay, the R-35, the H-35, they're not terrible. They're just two-man tanks. That's their biggest failing, and they're sort of slow. But they have good armor. Their guns sort of letting them down because they're literally World War I surplus, not just the same model, but surplus. They were starting to upgrade it to a longer-barreled, bigger-chambered 37 millimeter, but that had barely got started. When the operation, when the invasion starts, but they're getting started. But the Salma and the Char-B, they can be arguably, they have the defect of a single man turret, but they can be arguably better than some the Panzer ones. Both of those are better than the Panzer ones, and I could even argue that the R-35 is better than a Panzer one. That's debatable, but definitely, and the majority of tanks, and we can talk about the Panzer IIs, the majority of tanks that Germany is invading with are Panzer Is and Panzer IIs. Those combined outnumber all the rest of the German tanks. So, that's what they're mainly invading with. But they're able to, by Army Front, Corps, Division, Battalion, organization, able to concentrate forces and are able to win with a war of decision. So size, and even to a point, quality doesn't matter if you can do this. Well, the war of decision is no longer going to be the case of deciding the Eastern Front with the failure of Barbarossa to achieve its objectives of taking particularly Leningrad and Moscow. They do basically, I guess, get Ukraine in that, but its northern objectives or primary objectives of Moscow are failed. Had you got, because again, Gamer also always says, warfare is a political act. Politics are perception. So it's perceived who is winning. So had, not a year or two into the war, but had you in that first campaign taken Moscow, maybe the Soviet or Russian peoples, however you want to describe them, may have just become defeatist. And enough that they were, overthrow Stalin and sign some sort of peace. Even though that we obviously see if they stick to the war, they can win. But so warfare is always a political act. Just, even though there may be a whole new army ready to throw out the enemy may, your side may just give up. So you have to keep that. And so, but that was, in my opinion, the war of decision and maneuver was lost with the inability to take Moscow. Now, you can still use decision and maneuver. People like von Manstein wanted to do that in an ongoing war of attrition with the Soviets. Instead of trying to hold the line, and taking heavier and heavier losses against, the Soviets, to maneuver, give up where the, withdraw, not give up, but withdraw where the enemy, the Soviets push in, and then counterattack and cut off those forces. And that just becomes a more effective, as opposed to, a linear World War I attempt at a stalemate, attritional warfare, to a attritional warfare that is using maneuver and decision on the individual battles, but not on the overall warfare. Russians mainly used tanks against infantry. Tank-to-tank combat was a secondary role. I wouldn't go that far, Ragar. The thing is, many people forget this. Germany simply couldn't outproduce their enemies. For their perspective, going quality over quantity was the only choice. Well, in my opinion, if somehow Poland just gets removed and it was just a German versus Soviet Union, in my opinion, Germany would have won. No, they didn't have to worry about guarding their western front, because hey, Belgium and the Netherlands and France were all going to be peaceful, and Britain was all going to be peaceful, and it was just Soviets versus the Germans. Germans are going to win. But you're absolutely right. There's an industrial might of Soviet Union. There's the industrial might of the British Empire, not just Britain alone. But then, of course, the greatest industrial power of the time was America. Yeah, they're not going to win. But would it have been better to have twice as many, but not quite? I mean, I'm not talking about how effective the gun barrel is. I'm not talking about the gun. I'm not talking about how thick the armor is. But had you just made more simplified tanks, and you made them without fiddling with them as much as the Germans did, and had double the number of tanks, they're not going to win. But I don't know that is as good as trying to have the highest quality tanks as they could. And I really think it's that kind of level of, they're not going to outproduce America, no. But they could have, with a few production style changes, the way they produce things changed to more of the American/Soviet, because the Americans were trained by the Soviets were trained by the Americans on how to produce stuff on a tractor factory that America built for them in the 30s. I forget some of the details on that, but because they used American-style production, and had Germans used American-style production, and then a few other things that they could have readily changed about how they produce things. They could have maybe produced double the number of things like tanks. Now the question is, did they have the fuel for double number of the tanks? And that would be another question. To be honest, I don't think they put that much thought into it. They just ended up in total war against the enemies too. Yeah, they just ended up, Hitler miscalculated, absolutely. Hello, Krok. Hopefully I'm getting that right. Hey, OCB, war is the continuation of policy by other means. Yes, that is another warfare is politics by other means, and politics is warfare by other means, or politics is warfare by other means. Warfare is politics by other means. So yeah, they're the two sides of the same coin. It's not quite a good definition, but does sort of work. I kind of wonder whether they would have even been possible. There's a lot of tradition, previous education, current standards that go into engineering. Yeah, I know, but it's the Germans. Trust me, the Germans knew and understood the idea of mass production. They did it with their Kriegs locomotive. Once, and I forget the guy who was in charge of the railway production, once they settled on the Kriegs locomotive, they did not change that production. They produced only the Kriegs locomotive, meaning war locomotive, and they produced it, and they didn't change it one little bit. Where the Germans would like, oh, hey, we're building these new Tiger tanks. Oh, hey, the new version says we should have this different sort of cupola on it, or different sort of vision block. Oh, well, we have 30 Tiger tanks ready to go to the front right now. Now, bring them back into the factory. We'll just update that little bit on the tank. It won't take too long. Where the Americans were, no, shove them out the door. Just spam the Shermans out the door. Don't, only change it eventually when you realize, oh, we've got to do a 76 millimeter gun, or oh, we got to do a few production run in the jumbos with thicker armor. They only changed when they felt they absolutely had to, where the Germans were constantly fiddling with things, and they would have like a machine that would stamp one thing out of the tank, stamp out 500, take that machine. Okay, we got those 500. Let's reset this machine up to stamp out something else that goes on the tank, and they stamp them out. Where the Americans would just get that stamping machine or milling machine, turn it on, and just run and make that single widget or gadget until they decide they don't need any more of those gadgets because they got enough spares to go, and they moved on to a different model for somewhere else, and they've got enough spares for whatever needed they need. And then they would shut down. They wouldn't constantly be fiddling with the style of production. And Germans understood this. It wasn't like some mystery science that, not fiddling with production, the Germans couldn't. They understood this, but they just, through their sort of purchase and procurement systems, they just never did it. Speer was trying to get them to go down that road. Guderian was trying to get them to go down simplifying the numbers of models made. They were trying to do it, and we can look at both Speer and his work and trying to do it, and Guderian and his work, which sort of aligned with Speer within the Nazi hierarchy. They were sort of trying to do this, but sort of late, a day late, dollar short, kind of not enough. So it wasn't like some mystery that they didn't ever think of. It was something they could have done. They could have implemented it without, big what ifs. Just minor sort of change this stuff. Manpower absolutely is an issue as well. Though I would say fuel is a bigger issue. The quality of soldiers was declining. Yeah, but the quality of soldiers is also declining because of the collapse in North Africa and the collapse at Stalingrad are just, huge losses that are irreplaceable in the German system. Obviously, they do replace the losses, but one, you see the quality going down, and two, instead of replacing the losses, they would have, to some degree, had more units, more stuff on the battlefield than others. Hello, Urbis. My wife is an engineer, so I think I know them pretty well. They don't change their paragraph. Yeah, I hear you. Which makes sense. Only a few years bad results. Also, the Germans only had a few years to change their paragraph. Yeah, I'm missing that. When it might have been relevant, I think they did go into the bloody mind and produce what works in. Yeah, it was too late. Yes, you're right, and it was. And like I say, I'm not going to go into it now. I have studied the whole National Socialist regime and the way it worked, and not only are there lots of, say, like army politics as to Stugs belong to the artillery. Jagdpanzers belonged to the tank corps. When they were getting ready to make the Jagdpanzer 4s, there was a debate, were those going to be Stug 4s? They did actually sort of make Stug 4s, but are those going to be Stug 4s, or we're going to call them Stug 4s, and are they going to belong to the artillery, or are they going to belong to the Panzer Corps? Who's they going to belong to? They ended up calling Jagdpanzers, so they ended up, and that wasn't going to change functionally really anything on the tanks. It was just going to change their roles and what branch of the service were they going to belong to. So you have those kind of issues, but you also have issues like, hey, don't shut down my factory here. It employs people. Gauleiters were in charge of their gaus and their own fiefdoms, and there was often duplication. And at some stage, I don't know, like 42 or 43 or maybe even earlier, they banned horse racing in Germany because, yeah, they want to keep a certain amount of studs and, female horses to produce more horses to grow the thing, but we don't want to have wasted energy of producing and high maintenance race horses. And Christian Weber, the one of the main an an old comrade of Hitler's, one of the main SS guys down in Bavaria, and the guy sort of doing the Brown Derby, the races down there in peacetime. He appealed to Hitler. Okay, well, the Munich Brown Derby gets to keep happening, and those horse races, and the horse stables and all, those get to keep staying there. Those can stay there, but all the rest of horse racing is shut down at that point. So there's all these sort of, special exemptions for this or that. If you can appeal to the right high up guy in the Nazi party, he can protect you. Whether it's your industry or your little fiefdom or whatever it is, and all that chaos within the National Socialist regime that Hitler wanted, mind you. Hitler liked that ideologically. But Speer and the war was trying to grind out of them. So yeah, they realized these things. So I'm not talking like something that they just didn't conceive of. I'm talking things that they knew and they conceived of, but just their whole system, and not just the engineers, but the whole National Socialist regime. Okay, well, let's continue here. We're defending here. Okay, we've created a decent perimeter. Now we want to start pushing back. We got some fairly light equipment here. They're up on the high grounds. They're sort of in the trenches. Well, I want to get my infantry into the trenches. Maybe into the swamp as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to move these guys to here. Okay. We're going to push out to here. These guys are going to, oh good, they're encircled, so they're going to come to here. Now we're going to move these Martyr 3s with the 76mm guns. We're going to move them to here. And we're going to, yes. These guys all the way over to here, I think. Okay, so all of these here are backed up with good. Crap happen, but everywhere, yeah, totalitarian governments are likely. Well, totalitarian governments have their strengths, but also their weaknesses. Again, I'm not a totalitarian, I'm just looking at history. I don't think FDR or Eisenhower or de Gaulle or Churchill were deluded enough to think that the war was a one-man effort. Yeah, they weren't. Wow, this is Panzer Corps 2. The graphics are fantastic. Yeah, hello, NY Copus. Yes, this is Panzer Corps 2, the latest DLC. And we can zoom all the way in here and we can see the various camouflages. You can go in if you want to on your vehicles and here, and you can look at, and you can add a camouflage pattern and change it to any one of these, including other nation sort of stuff. Now this doesn't, the AI doesn't, like, you don't hide any better from the AI. Right now we're sort of at default here with the winter added to it, but do we have like a proper snow? Well, we could do something like that. No, that's turned it to green. So no. Here. Let's go back to here. But yeah, you can, go to something like this if you want to. Partially, you can just do this. You know, I mean, it's just for your immersion only, but you can do it to keep track of, like a particular elite tiger or something. You can have some of that stuff on it. So yeah, the graphics are great. Maybe it did have issues earlier on with the not invented here syndrome. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, there's issues, and we can particularly look at say American torpedo production. Okay, and all of their lovely problems. Okay, you're going to move into the trenches here. You're going to come to here, and you're going to switch over to here because you're sort of weak. But backed up with that AT gun, you might be useful. You guys are just Panzer IIs. Yeah, see, they just get slaughtered against that. We're going to move back into here, which will get back up by these Pack 38s. Pack 38s are okay. Pack 40s are much better. Here we're going to not knock the tank out. Well, do pretty good. Yeah, let's move to this position. I do that. Get in, get ready to push on those. So we've given up all of it over here. This terrain now here. We can move up and unlimber and no, we probably already have we already fired? Yeah, we oh well yeah. Oh no, this isn't the oh I was thinking it was this gun. This gun can move and because it is, if we come take the high ground, that's what I love about this gun. If you get oh no oh, need to click here. Okay, if you can get this hero here, one with this slot, 0 slots. So this gun, I shouldn't even theoretically by the number of points here. It won't let me move this tank until I either lose or somehow undeploy a few forces. So these guys are stuck, so we won't get to move them. But if you can get the 0 slot guy, I would highly recommend him, especially if he has fast deployment. Put him on this 170mm gun because it is expensive, but none of those slots count. So now we have great range out here, and we have a tank that is almost done. So let's see about doing that, and then see about, yes, we can kill it without loss. So we've not lost, and we've taken that unit down. And now here, this guy here doesn't have enough range. He's just a standard 150mm gun and not up on any heights, but we'll move him here to where he will be able to do something, but just to the edge of there. So it's not enough, so we may need to move him up. Okay, now down here again, I don't know if any of these guys are ever going to free up, but we're going to move these guys to the heights to sort of watch this road, watch the approach there, and maybe here. So we don't have, I put all of our Luftwaffe into reserve because none of the air units are going to be able to be used because of weather conditions, at least at the start. I don't know if later on. My wife told me something interesting recently. The founder of FedEx was a retired U.S. Army logistics officer. Interesting. I did not know that. I would put the 0 slot into check gun or into Moose division, possibly. Possibly. I don't know if they have the 210mm check gun, and I don't know its range because this has tremendous range in this game. Yes, if you put things on a hill, it gets even greater range. Okay, he's encircled now, though, which isn't great. Oh boy, we may get to use that Panther after all. Maybe not. That's a light T60, I think. Yeah, T60. Okay. Well, they surrendered, so we're 1 point over. Maybe I shouldn't have upgraded to 1 tanks. Okay, well. Live. If you live, you can learn. Okay, well, let's see. They got hit, and they're all red now, so they're not going to do any damaging of us. See how best to do this. Okay, keeping him back here with these guys in the front line is not the best idea. So he's severely weakened. We're going to move our tiger up here, take him out, hopefully with an overrun. Okay. Yeah. If I go up too far up to here, I might get cut off from our forces. But here we can take out these with another overrun. But there's nobody else for me to attack, and I think we'll just stay there. Right here, we'll see about that. And we're gonna, because I'd rather have more mobile defenses down here, bigger open area. We'll move these Panzer IIs right here. They're backed up with the AT again, so even if these KV, these are T-34s come in, it won't cause too big of a problem. Hope. Okay, you guys, the swamp, and we. Oh, good, they surrender. And this is what I wanted to be able to do, is move these guys into the trenches if I could. Allow me to reinforce that up a little bit. Okay, they got hurt pretty bad. And whether the weather will lift before the end of the scenario, I do not know. I don't think it's random for this scenario. There was an incident, if I remember correctly, and I'm just vaguely remembering this, that Hitler was on, and it may have been down here, coming to visit the, sort of Corps or Army area HQ. And the Soviets weren't that far away. Not any real danger of overrunning Hitler's position, but you were hearing the sounds of, big gunfire, artillery pieces and that kind of thing. It was that sort of thing. So I think there is a little or a lot maybe influenced with this. Okay, well, we're going to move this artillery piece up to here. They'll be able to fire in support of these guys. They still have very good range, so we may want to move them up. Yeah, because we do have sort of ranging out to here, but we don't have out to here. So let's see if that will be... Yeah, we may readjust as needed. So glad this has. At least I try not to use an undo for a bad die roll, or even a driving along get ambushed. But for misclicks and whatnot, or sometimes testing things, I will use the undo button. Okay.